Hey everyone, I'm working to hit 1,000 subscribers, and I need your help to get there. If you enjoy this content, please hit that subscribe button right now.
Happy Victory Monday, Vikings faithful, and buckle up because we need to talk about what just happened in Minneapolis. The Minnesota Vikings didn't just beat the Washington Commanders yesterday. They absolutely demolished them, shutting them out 31-0 in what might be the most important game of their season. And no, I'm not talking about playoff implications or division standings. I'm talking about the development of their franchise quarterback, J.J. McCarthy, who just might have turned a corner in the biggest way possible. Let me set the stage here. The Vikings were sitting at a dismal 4-8 coming into this game. Their season was essentially over. Fans were debating whether they should tank for draft position. The offense had been an absolute disaster for a month straight, looking nothing like the competent unit we saw earlier in the season. And at the center of all the criticism was their young quarterback, number 9, J.J. McCarthy, who had been struggling mightily through his first 6 starts. But yesterday, something changed, something clicked. And if you didn't watch this game, you missed what could be the turning point in this kid's career. After going back and watching the All-22 film this morning, breaking down every single snap, every single throw, every single decision McCarthy made, I've got 5 massive takeaways that Vikings fans need to hear. And the first one is absolutely crucial to understanding why yesterday was such a departure from everything we've seen before. McCarthy got the ball out way quicker than he has in any of his previous starts. I'm talking 3-step drops, hitting that back foot, and firing the football. No more holding onto the ball for what feels like an eternity. No more of that chaotic backyard football style where he's scrambling around like a little kid at recess trying to make something happen out of nothing. This is advantageous for McCarthy's development in ways that can't be overstated. We've watched his mental processing speed up considerably over the past few weeks, and when he was holding on to the ball too long, we'd see him devolve into pure chaos in the pocket. It wasn't pretty. But yesterday was different. The game plan was clearly designed to get him into a rhythm early. Hit that back foot, take your 3 hitches, and get the ball out quick. Build confidence. Get completions. Feel good about yourself, and it worked beautifully. There was one play on the Vikings' first possession that perfectly encapsulated this new approach. 2nd down, Vikings spread it out with 5 receivers, giving McCarthy a clean picture of what the defense was showing him. Everything's right in front of him. No confusion, no complexity. He gets the ball, hits his back foot, and immediately delivers a strike to his tight end for a solid 10-yard gain. Nothing flashy, nothing spectacular. Just efficient, confident quarterback play designed to get the young signal caller rolling. That's smart coaching right there. That's understanding your quarterback's development curve and putting him in position to succeed. But it wasn't just about quick throws and easy completions. McCarthy showed genuine command of the offense yesterday, and that's something we haven't consistently seen from him this season. Now, let's be honest about the context here. This was not a high-leverage game. You're at home against a 3-9 Commanders team that's clearly playing out the string. This is exactly the kind of game you're supposed to win, and win convincingly. But here's the thing. You know how teams lose games they're supposed to win? Pre-snap penalties, false starts, delay of games, guys lining up in the wrong spots, confusion, chaos, all the things that show a lack of preparation and command from the quarterback position. None of that happened yesterday. McCarthy had the offense operating like a well-oiled machine. Everybody seemed like they were in the right spot at the right time. No pre-snap nonsense that the coaching staff had to work through. The Vikings offense looked smooth, organized, and competent for the first time in about a month. In fact, you'd have to go all the way back to that Detroit game to find the last time this offense looked this functional. And you've got to give the quarterback credit for that, just like we buried him for all those pre-snap penalties against the Baltimore Ravens. Fair is fair. If we're going to criticize him when things go wrong, we need to praise him when things go right. And yesterday, things went very, very right. McCarthy's accuracy was also notably improved throughout most of the game. Sure, he had a couple of misfires. There was that throw to Jordan Addison on the right sideline where his mechanics got a little out of whack and he just flat out missed his target. That happens. He's a young quarterback still learning. But overall, he was placing the ball where it needed to be. He had some absolute dimes to Addison. and Jalen Naylor that showed off his arm talent. There was a beautiful out route to TJ Hawkinson on the first drive that was perfectly placed, hitting his tight end right in stride. These weren't just checkdowns and dump-offs. These were legitimate NFL throws that require timing, accuracy, and anticipation. His athleticism was on full display as well. And this is an underrated aspect of McCarthy's game that doesn't get talked about enough. When this kid decides to tuck the ball and run with the intent to pick up a first down, he's a legitimate weapon with his legs. He picked up several key first downs with his mobility yesterday, extending drives and keeping the offense on schedule. That dual threat capability is invaluable in today's NFL, and it's something the Vikings can build around as they continue developing their offensive identity with McCarthy under center. Perhaps most encouragingly, his mechanics looked substantially better than they have in previous weeks. His lower body was more connected to his upper body, creating better sync and transfer of power through his throws. We weren't seeing that back foot flailing up on his release like we've seen in some games. Everything looked more fundamentally sound, more controlled, more repeatable. These are the kinds of technical improvements that lead to sustained success at the quarterback position. You can't just rely on raw talent. You need to have sound mechanics that hold up under pressure, and McCarthy showed real progress in that area yesterday. When you look at his spray chart from the game, it's actually pretty satisfying for anyone who's been paying attention to the criticism surrounding McCarthy's ability to throw to different areas of the field. There's been this narrative, particularly on social media, that JJ can't throw to the left side of the field. Well, that narrative got put to bed yesterday in emphatic fashion. He was firing the ball to his left all game long. Those two completions up on the top left of the spray chart were absolute dimes, one to Addison, one to Naylor. Big-time throws that required confidence and precision. Sure, he had a few misfires on the right side, as evidenced by those incomplete passes on the chart, but overall, this was a well-rounded performance from a distribution standpoint. So let's show this kid some love, because he absolutely deserves it after the performance he put together. Now, I'm not going to sit here and proclaim that J.J. McCarthy is definitively the franchise quarterback and the unquestioned starter for next season. That would be premature and irresponsible. But this was undeniably a building block. This was a step forward. This was progress. And as a Vikings fan, I'm fired up about what this could mean for the final stretch of the season. The Vikings are playing meaningless games from a playoff perspective, but there's still so much to evaluate. There's still a young quarterback developing in real time, and games like yesterday are crucial to that development. I'm personally fired the hell up for that Cowboys game next week in Dallas. I want to see the Vikings go into Jerry's world and get another win for McCarthy and for head coach Kevin O'Connell. Both of those guys looked good yesterday, and we're starting to see McCarthy take those next steps that everyone's been waiting for. If he can build on this performance and show consistency against Dallas, then we're really onto something. So, yeah, show him some love. Type those 9s in the comments. Give the kid some credit where credit is due. Speaking of Kevin O'Connell, we need to talk about the head coach, because I've been extremely critical of KOC this season, and longtime viewers of this channel know that. I've questioned his play calling decisions. I've been frustrated by his refusal to stay committed to the run game. His short yardage play calling has been questionable at best throughout his entire tenure as head coach. These are legitimate criticisms that I stand by. But yesterday, I've got to give credit where it's due, and O'Connell deserves some serious praise for what happened against Washington. First of all, he actually stayed committed to the run game. The Vikings had 34 carries for over 162 yards. That's a real commitment to establishing the ground game and taking pressure off your young quarterback. They were excellent in third and short situations, converting at a high rate and keeping drives alive. These are things we haven't seen consistently from O'Connell's play calling this season, so to see him adjust and adapt his approach is genuinely encouraging. But here's what really impressed me about O'Connell yesterday, and this has nothing to do with play calling or scheme or X's and O's. After the game in the locker room, O'Connell asked his team a question that I think reveals a lot about his leadership style. He said, "Hey guys, what did I ask you last night?" And according to reports, he had asked the team to imagine what their 16-year-old versions of themselves would be saying about their performance in this game. Think about that for a second. That's powerful perspective, especially for a team that's 4-8 and playing out the string against a 3-9 opponent. It would be so easy for these professional athletes to mail it in, to say, we're not making the playoffs, who cares? But O'Connell tapped into something deeper. He reminded them why they fell in love with football in the first place. He reminded them that somewhere inside each of them is that kid who dreamed of playing in the NFL, who would have given anything to be in their position. And that kid version of themselves would be absolutely disgusted if they went out and played uninspired football just because the playoff race is over. That's genuine leadership. That's connecting with your players on a human level and motivating them beyond wins and losses and playoff implications. The result? They came out and beat a team 31-0. That's a complete domination on all three phases. That's a team that's still bought into what their coach is selling. And that gives me hope that Kevin O'Connell still has this locker room, even in a disappointing season. So shout out to KOC. I'll still criticize the play calling when it's warranted, but yesterday, both as a play caller and as a leader of men, he deserves recognition. Now let's talk about the elephant in the room, or rather the genius on the sideline, who's probably going to be leaving Minnesota very soon. Brian Flores is going to be a head coach again in the NFL, and honestly, as Vikings fans, I think we've undervalued just how impactful he's been for this defense. This man is operating one of the most unique defensive schemes in the entire league. The Vikings walk guys up to the line of scrimmage, show you a pre-snap look, then show you a mid-snap look, and then change everything at the last second. It's a chess match. It's deception at the highest level. And it's incredibly difficult for opposing offenses to process and react to. But it's not just the scheme. It's the intensity. It's the effort. It's the way these guys fly around the football field playing for Flores. Even in a lost season, this defense is still bought in. They're still playing with passion and purpose. You saw Blake Cashman out there yesterday making plays. You saw Jonathan Greenard getting after the quarterback. Eric Wilson was flying around like a man possessed. These guys have taken on the identity of their defensive coordinator, and that identity is fast, mean, and physical. And what Flores did to Jaden Daniels yesterday was borderline criminal. When Daniels was in the game, he was completely ineffective, 9 of 20 passing, couldn't pick up first downs, couldn't get into any kind of rhythm. The pressure was relentless. The coverage was suffocating. It was a masterclass in defensive game planning and execution, and all the credit goes to the defensive coordinator. Flores has proven this year that he's truly one of the best, if not the best, defensive coordinator in the entire NFL. Here's my take, and I know this might be controversial, but I'm going to say it anyway. The Vikings need to do everything they possibly can to keep Brian Flores. Now, I'm not saying they should fire Kevin O'Connell to keep Flores. Let me be very clear about that. But if I had to choose between Brian Flores and Kevin O'Connell as my head coach heading into next season, right now in this present moment, I think I'd take Flores. It's close, like 52% Flores, 48% O'Connell. But I think Flores brings an identity to your football team that's harder to replicate. You become a fast, mean, physical team that opponents dread playing against. Now, all of this can change. Kevin O'Connell showed yesterday that maybe he's not as stuck in his ways as I thought he was. The last couple of weeks, it really felt like KOC was stubbornly insisting on running his offense his way without any willingness to adapt. But yesterday, he did adapt. He simplified things for his young quarterback. He committed to the run. He showed self-awareness and flexibility. Those are important qualities in a head coach. And if O'Connell continues to show growth in those areas, then maybe my opinion shifts back in his favor. But make no mistake, the Vikings are probably going to lose Brian Flores this hiring cycle. Whether it's the Falcons, the Raiders, the Titans, or some other team that needs a head coach, somebody is going to take a chance on Flores. And honestly, he deserves it. He deserves a second opportunity to be a head coach in this league after what happened in Miami. What he's done with this Vikings defense is nothing short of remarkable, and any team that hires him is getting one of the brightest defensive minds in football. The Vikings front office better have a plan for what this defense looks like without Flores, because that's almost certainly going to be the reality come next season. Let's shift gears and talk about the wide receiver position, because this was probably my most glaring takeaway from rewatching the film. The other wide receivers on this team need to step the hell up. And I'm not talking about Justin Jefferson. Let me make that abundantly clear. What Jefferson is dealing with on a weekly basis is absolutely insane. Nobody in NFL history has gotten the defensive attention that this man gets on a consistent basis. And that's not hyperbole. That's not Minnesota homerism. That's objective reality based on what I'm seeing on the All-22 film. It wasn't just double teams yesterday against Washington. It was double teams plus a linebacker shading over the top, plus a safety cheating his direction. The Commanders came into this game with a clear game plan. Blanket Justin Jefferson at all costs. Make somebody else beat you. And you know what? That's smart. Jefferson just had 2 catches for 4 yards against Seattle. They know Kevin O'Connell wants to keep his best player happy and involved. So they put 4, sometimes 6 eyeballs on number 18 on every single passing play. If you have access to the All-22 film, go back and watch Jefferson on every passing play. It's remarkable how much attention he commands. And here's the thing, there are other receivers on this roster that need to capitalize on those one-on-one opportunities. Jordan Addison had that drop yesterday, and overall I just haven't been as blown away by Addison as I was in previous years. He's still a very good receiver. He's probably still a top 32 receiver in the league, but when you're getting one-on-one coverage on every single play because the defense is sending the cavalry at Jefferson, you need to win those matchups more consistently. You need to create separation. You need to make plays, and we're not seeing enough of that from Addison. TJ Hawkinson had that nice touchdown catch, but he's also getting one-on-one looks on every play. The same goes for the other pass catchers on this roster. When Justin Jefferson is commanding that much defensive attention, somebody else has to step up and make defenses pay for selling out to stop one player. And that's not happening consistently enough. Now, I'm sure other elite receivers in the league like Jamar Chase or CeeDee Lamb get their share of double teams and extra attention. But I'm telling you, they're not getting what Jefferson gets. There are levels to this. Jefferson himself talked about this earlier in the week when discussing his struggles this season. Someone compared his situation to Garrett Wilson dealing with bad quarterback play, and Jefferson respectfully said, "I'm not Garrett Wilson. I don't get the looks that Garrett Wilson gets." And Wilson is a top 10 receiver in the league. But there are levels to this thing. Jefferson is an all-time talent. He's a generational receiver, and defenses are doing everything in their power to take him away from the game plan. Jamar Chase isn't getting that level of attention every single week. Amon-Ra St. Brown isn't getting that. Puka Nacua isn't getting that. The attention Jefferson receives is on another level entirely. So I'm going to give Jefferson massive credit here. He's battled through bad quarterback play for stretches this season. He's dealt with being the sole focus of every defensive game plan. He hasn't been as productive as he's accustomed to being. And yet, on the sidelines yesterday after the game, Jefferson was all smiles because his team was winning. That tells you everything you need to know about his character and his priorities. He cares about winning above personal statistics. Nothing but respect and love for number 18. But the other receivers need to recognize the gifts they're being given and take advantage of them. Now let's talk about one of the best under-the-radar free agent signings the Vikings made this past offseason. Eric Wilson has been absolutely phenomenal this season, and he was flying around the football field yet again yesterday. When the Vikings brought Wilson back, most people viewed it as a solid rotational move, getting a veteran linebacker who knows the building and can provide depth. Nobody expected him to play at a Pro Bowl level, but that's exactly what he's been doing. Wilson had another sack yesterday. Brian Flores loves to blitz this man, and he and Cashman have developed great chemistry on those linebacker twist stunts up front that cause confusion for offensive linemen. Wilson is also an excellent form tackler, which is sometimes overlooked in today's NFL where everyone wants to light people up with big hits. Wilson wraps up, brings guys down, and makes the play. I would be more than happy to see the Vikings bring him back on another contract next season. Think about the context of Wilson's success this year. Ivan Pace Jr., who was a feel-good story and solid contributor last season, became essentially unplayable this year. The Vikings needed somebody to step up into that linebacker rotation, and Eric Wilson not only filled that void, he exceeded expectations. He's been even better than anyone could have anticipated. So shout out to number 55. He's been one of the quiet success stories of this Vikings season, and he deserves recognition for the year he's having.